Hello everybody, so today I'm bringing you my first magic weapons guide. This one is going to be a guide to spell books. I'll be covering all the spell books, also known as spell tomes, on all platforms. So I'll give you the details regardless of what platform you're on. So let's just jump right into it. In pre-hard mode, I'm starting from the beginning of the game and moving on. So pre-hard mode, the first one that you're likely to get reasonably easily is the water bolt, which I've got selected here. It is recovered from bookshelves in the dungeon. You can harvest it either by using your alternate button, right click on PC, or with a pickaxe. Basically, you're going to find books on shelves, and if you look very carefully, you do have to be very close to it to get it, and for it to appear. If you just like put your cursor over it, it'll sometimes pop up a little icon near the shelf to show you that there is a water bolt there. And if you're really lucky, you can also even get it before you actually go down into the dungeon. If you're really lucky, you might find it on a shelf right near the entrance, above the level where the dungeon guardian will kill you. But otherwise, you might get it a little bit later after you've defeated either Skeletron or the dungeon guardian. And it auto-fires a slow-moving blue projectile. Looks just like that. And as you can see, it travels in straight lines, unaffected by gravity, emits a dim light, can ricochet, bounce off things up to 5 times. So you can see it actually will bounce off that wall and come back. And can also pierce and hit up to 10 enemies. It uses 10 mana, has a 16 use time, so it's very fast actually if you want to. It's auto fire as well. So you can actually do quite a lot of damage by just holding down your fire. And it does 17 base damage on the non-updated platforms. It's been upgraded slightly to 19 base damage for the updated platforms. And just to let you know, I took out my regular armor. I put on a diamond robe, which only affects how much mana I have, and my regeneration rate, because I didn't want to mess up the damage, just to show you a realistic amount. And I just have accessories either for movement or boosting that mana again, because don't want to run out of mana when I'm demonstrating the weapons. So moving on, next one is the Book of Skulls. Now you may actually get this faster because it's a 1 in 10 chance to drop when you defeat Skeletron, 1 in 3 chance if you're on expert mode. It fires slow-moving flaming skull projectiles, which do not ricochet, they do not bounce off things, and they can pierce and hit up to 3 enemies. You'll see here they're actually only hitting 2, but they're hitting one of them twice, which can happen as well. So ultimately it's 3 hits. Emits a decent amount of light, has a fairly fast 25 use time, just moderately fast. Now it costs 18 mana and does 29 damage on the updated platforms. The stats are actually a little bit unclear for the old gen mobile and 3DS. The main wiki says 12 mana and 35 damage. Another different wiki says 18 mana and 19 damage. It apparently was nerfed in the desktop 1.2.3 update. And according to those stats, it would be 22 mana and 28 damage. Regardless, it looks cool with the flaming skulls, but it's ultimately not that useful because it lacks that ricochet ability, and it also has very limited piercing. So the water bolt, as you can kind of see here, can actually be much more effective. So I wouldn't worry too much about the Book of Skulls. Now the last spell tome that you can get in pre-hard mode is the Demon Scythe, and that has a 1 in 35 chance to drop from demons and voodoo demons that are just demons carrying voodoo dolls when you're in the underworld, also known as hell. It fires a spinning circular projectile that can pierce and hit up to 5 enemies and has a 19 use time, so it's very fast. It is not auto fire, however, so you need to keep clicking unless you're on mobile. But you can see there, it does quite a lot of damage, and it pierces, it'll go through and hit up to 5 enemies. Uses 10 mana on the non-updated platforms, 14 mana on the updated platforms, does 35 base damage in either case. And as you can see, that projectile begins very slowly and then accelerates. So ultimately it moves pretty fast once it gets going. And it emits a good amount of light. It's actually, this is a weapon that's very useful against the Wall of Flesh, for instance. Even the Water Bolt, actually, if you angle it upwards and it'll pierce through the Wall of Flesh, but this one's obviously a little easier. It'll take out the Hungry and all that. And that's basically it for pre-hard mode. So when we get into hard mode, the first three spell tomes that you can get are craftable, actually, and they're the only ones that are craftable. They're crafted at a bookcase, or enchanted at the bookcase, so that's why I have a bookcase here. You will need to find your wizard and purchase a spell tome to make any of these. The first one I'm going to show you is the Cursed Flames. So I am actually going to craft that right here, right now. And as you can see, it does 36 magic damage, uses 9 mana, summons unholy fireballs, and is very fast. So that is a spell tome, 15 Souls of Night, and it's 20 Cursed Flames on the updated platforms. It's 30 on the non-updated platforms. But regardless, the stats are basically the same. The only difference is it's 35 instead of 36 base damage on the non-updated platforms. So let's pop that in there. And yeah, it fires these Cursed Flame projectiles. It does auto fire, so you can hold it down. And these will actually ricochet. If I, bounce them off a wall, they will ricochet. Now it says they can pierce and hit up to 5 enemies, but again, I think this is a situation where maybe multiple hits, or maybe that stat's just wrong, because it's not going through a lot of the dummies. But you can see it also inflicts that Cursed Flame debuff, which does quite a lot of damage. So it's a good weapon. The fireballs do give off a lot of light, which can help you when you're exploring underground. They do not slow down in water. The only issue with it, the problem, it's good for exploration, but many enemies are immune to that Cursed Flames debuff, especially 2 out of the 3 mechanical bosses at the beginning of hard mode are immune to that, so that's kind of the only real serious problem with that. Next one that I'm going to talk about is the Golden Shower. Now, all of these, of course, you can get right from the beginning of hard mode. The Golden Shower. It's the Crimson counterpart. So the Cursed Flames is if you're in a corruption world, normally you would get that. The Golden Shower, if you're in a crimson world, you would be able to make this. So again, it's Spell Tome, 15 Souls of Night. Those are the same. And instead of Cursed Flames, it's Ichor. So it's 20 on the updated platforms, 30 on the non-updated platforms. And you can craft that. So the Golden Shower fires an arcing golden stream. And there you go, arcs. It's basically affected by gravity. It's kind of like the Aqua Scepter. So it can pierce, again, this says it can pierce up to 5 enemies, but that kind of appears to be wrong too, doesn't it? Because, oh, sorry, yeah, yeah, that stat appears to be wrong as well. It's clearly piercing more than that in this case. And it inflicts the Ichor debuff instead of the Cursed Flames debuff. Costs 7 mana, does 21 base damage, very fast 17 use time. Now this debuff is very powerful. You can't see it on the dummies, but it lowers the enemy defense, which means effectively, although it's only a base of 21 damage, against an enemy, it'll be more effective than other things might be because it lowers their defense. And it will actually cause them to glow, which you can't see too well at daytime here, but effectively, it's a relatively high damage. It inflicts that debuff, and not only that, but you can actually fire this at your enemy, inflict that debuff for a few seconds, and switch to another weapon, and it will increase that weapon's damage as well, because that debuff is inflicted on the enemy for a few seconds. So you would have to switch it back and forth if you want to really make use of it that way. But yeah, it's actually quite a powerful weapon. Again, has quite a good piercing capability. So there you go. And the last one that I'm going to talk about the craftable ones is the Crystal Storm. It's basically the Hallow counterpart. Of course, in all worlds, you'll get the Hallow once you're in hard mode. And it's crafted in a similar manner. It rapidly fires a small spread of crystals. Let's just show you the crafting first. So Spell Tome, 15 Souls of Light in this case, instead of Night for the other two. And again, it's crystal shards, 20 on the updated platforms, 30 on the non-updated platforms. So, this is interesting because it rapidly fires a small spread of crystals. The rate is actually the same as the Mega Shark, the firing rate. So it's a small spread of crystals. Those crystals fly for about 3 seconds, and they will then dissipate. They'll disappear. They'll slow down a little, in fact. It's hard to see that. But you can see them sort of slowing down, and eventually they'll just kind of run out of juice and disappear. Which I think even zoomed out like this, yeah, okay, you can see them just at the edge of the screen there. And so there you go. That's that one. So they do emit a small amount of light, firing rate again equal to the Mega Shark, so it's very, very fast. The Crystal Storm, other than being crafted, can also be a rare drop from Archdemons if you're on the mobile version. Even in pre-Hardmode on the mobile version, it's possible to get this. Uses 4 mana per shot. Of course, it's a very rapid firing rate, so it's going to use a fair bit. Does 25 base damage. Insanely fast, 7 use time, again equal to the Mega Shark. So now let's maybe zoom in a little bit here. So we'll show you the really cool ones now. So the Magnet Sphere, first of all, it has a 1 in 303 chance to drop from any of the Armored Bones variants in the dungeon after you've defeated Plantera. The Armored Bones show up and you can get this. That chance increases to 1 in 200 if you're on Expert Mode. It fires a slow-moving, glowing sphere in the direction of the cursor. Only one out at a time. Now, you see it's not doing anything to these dummies because what it does is it actually detects and zaps nearby enemies with beams, basically. And it disappears after about 7 seconds or if it hits a solid block. It does not go through walls. But it will, it's not affected by liquids at all. It basically just kind of goes along there like that. Uses 14 mana, base damage of 48, stated use time is 19, but the firing rate is equivalent to a use time of 9. Obviously, you can keep refiring it, but that might not help you. So let's actually show you what it actually does. And you can see actually when that enemy's nearby, it's actually hitting the dummies at that point as well. So it's kind of similar to the BFG in Doom, if you know that. Basically, it just zaps the nearby enemies and obviously does quite a lot of damage as it does that. So that's a pretty cool weapon, but we've got better. The Razorblade Typhoon, of course, is a legendary magic weapon. It has a 1 in 5 chance of being dropped when you defeat Duke Fishron. Fires 2 large, fast, glowing projectiles that look like blades and home in on enemies. That's a little different on other platforms, which I'll get to, the non-updated platforms. So these ricochet, as you can see, they bounce off the walls, and the piercing is unlimited, but they only last about 3 seconds, so they're not gonna, you know, do that forever. But you can see there, they home in on enemies, and will basically sit there just doing damage to nearby enemies until they disappear. So that uses 16 mana and has 60 base damage. Since the update, the use time is 39, so you can't fire them like too fast. I think it's actually that's still pretty fast because it, again, supposedly fires 2, but it was revamped with the update. Pre-update, it only shoots 1 blade at a time, but the use time is only 19, so the effect should be pretty similar, even though it was kind of revamped there. Very powerful weapon, as you can see there. Especially with that fast movement and homing capability, that's a very potent combination. You can do a lot of damage with that. Now, the Lunar Flare is the only one which is exclusive to the updated platforms. It has a 1 in 9 chance to drop from the Moonlord. And yeah, incredibly powerful weapon, one of the most powerful in the game. Summons 3 projectiles down from the sky to the cursor location, exploding on impact. So just look at that. Very incredibly powerful. Now, interestingly, it will pass through any blocks above the cursor. I guess not enemies or dummies, but if I fire down here, and it doesn't hit the dummies, if I just move over here, I guess, you'll see it will pass through those blocks if they're below the cursor location. It will also rapidly deplete my mana. But if I fire up here, it's going to hit, and it's a small explosion on impact. So that makes it actually quite effective when you're underground, unlike a lot of weapons that summon things from the sky. This is still effective underground, so it's also useful for exploring because it has quite a lot of light, basically until those beams hit there. Uses 13 mana per shot, so-called. Inflicts 100 damage per shot. Has a very fast use time of 10, which is why, again, it is auto fire. I can just hold this down. And that's the thing. It only uses 13 mana per shot, but it fires so rapidly it's going to burn right through your mana. So it is one of the very most powerful weapons, magic weapons in the game. But that high rate of fire is going to use up your mana. So there's a quick demonstration, but let's demonstrate a little better. I can summon the Eye of Cthulhu. You know what? I'll do that with maybe each of these last 3 weapons that I've been showing you. I've got lots of suspicious looking eyes, so we can do that. So you can see Magnet Sphere is cool and all, but it's going to take a while to defeat the Eye of Cthulhu. Of course, I can just refire one closer to him. That's where the refiring can come in handy. There you go. It's effective, but we can do better. So let's try the Razorblade Typhoon. As you can see, definitely much quicker there. And last but certainly not least, let's try that Lunar Flare out. Come on, buddy. And dead. So there you go. Those are the spell tomes. I'll be covering other magic weapons in other episodes, other guides. This is going to become a little series because there are a whole variety of magic weapons. So hope you liked the video. Thanks for watching. Please subscribe if you haven't already, and I'll see you next time. Bye for now.